AshEl Seasons, did I get it right? Eldridge has an MA in Transpersonal Psychology, Chicago-born, Oakland resident, is the founder of Earth Amplified, an artism and spirituality collective and movement. AshEl was a Northern California education and media manager with the Alliance for Climate Education and a Green for All Fellow. He is a co-founder of United Roots Oakland, Oakland's Green Youth Arts and Media Center, and the founder of SOS Juice, Power the People, a nonprofit, for-profit, promoting health equity, social entrepreneurship, and spiritual liberation. He is also founder of the Urban Pharmacy, a project creating health and wealth within low-income communities by cultivating food and natural medicines with hydroponics. He is a senior strategist for Hip Hop is Green and inspires many as the legend of the Uber rapper, a website about a freestyle creativity coach for ride shares. Most recently, AshEl has become a health coach and distributor of Purium, a transformational health and wealth building company. And here we have AshEl.
Thank you so much. Goku bijiso gen gen shikai zakamari ni kamu tumahimu inde maso kamu rugi kamu Romi no michi karamachite Bangzito hito no miuya kamu manso sramai kariyo mikami Harido no kamu tachi Muramare no sakagodo tumai no susumiki gariyo ba mai karimate Hari kiyome mi sagita maite kimi ne okano chigara yami ge wese tamaito Motsu goto no yoshio Kashimi kashimi mo motsu mio yomoto sumai kariyo mikami mamari timi zi ai timi Mio yamaru sumai kariyo mikami mamari timi siki ai tamae Come nigga tamai chi hai mansi Come nigga tamai chi hai mansi Oh no Peace. How y'all doing? Hopefully, that's the Amatsu prayer through Sukyo Mahikari, Universal Principles of Divine Light. That's just customary. I start off like that. What you're watching right now, Hip Hop is Green, RBG Fit Club. How many people know Dead Prez, boom, boom. You know what I'm saying? So we rock this out, ready to live. So actually mixtape, looking at the green movement, looking at how we can, in music form, which is really amazing, because I was doing the Uber rapper thing, which you can check out later. I make up songs on the spot for anybody in my Uber. It's a whole webisode, right? But I'm riding through, I picked up somebody and she was like, I want to go to KFC. So I was like, I put this RBG Fit Club in there. You know what I'm saying? Got this right there. Put that in there, you rock and you good. Ready to live. So come check that. This is all part of this movement. Hip Hop is Green. Actually framing hip hop in terms of where we want to take it, the 10th element of hip hop, which is health and wellness. I'm gonna go deeper into that. Before I go into that though, I'm gonna show you a little something though. Feels good to be up here. Anybody know that person in the middle right here? Yeah, Wangari Maathai. What's up with Wangari Maathai?
She is a Nobel Peace Prize winner for planting trees all over Kenya.
Brilliant.
5 million
With the Green Belt movement. Indeed. We should clap it up for Wangari Maathai real quick. I just let everyone know as an ancestor, you know, I just want to big her up because she influenced my work big time. You know what I'm saying? So, and she passed away like a couple years ago. So, Wangari Maathai. I'm just putting the ancestors. Anybody know this person? Who's that? What? Yeah, we just clap it up. We get the ancestors, let them know we showing them love for this movement. You gotta have the energy. The reason why I'm showing these, this is sort of like, you know, how I came to this was through ceremony. I came to this through my family. Actually, I show this because, you know, in my family, there's my grandmother, where she's my grandmother, she passed away from diabetes, actually. But one thing, she had to get a leg amputated. But one thing I remember about my family in Chicago, one thing I know about them, they were like a prayerful people. They would pray. And I'd be one of those type people. I'd be like, man, like, you know, is that really doing anything? Is that really helping any situation? Now it's really inspiring to see what's happening right now in North Dakota. Anybody following what's going on in North Dakota right now? Yeah. It's inspiring to see that because these people are saying we're going to do this a certain kind of way, right? And now I'm going deeper into like what's the science behind that? Like what's really the science? So anybody, no matter what the spirituality or non-spirituality, whatever it is, can get on it. But I just want to put these things in there to show a little journey, my journey into why we establishing in the next couple of years, you're going to be seeing and hearing a lot about the 10th element of hip-hop, which is health and wellness, which includes the hip-hop green dinners, which are vegan green dinners that we do. This is my grandmother was a sharecropper. It's not her. I just wanted to show, I had, in between slides, in between some of the presentations, I was talking to my man. I was like, yo, I gotta put this, my grandmother in there. I couldn't find a picture online for her, but and she was a sharecropper. So I'm just showing it to inform. One thing I put this up here for is because my grandfather, he passed away from cancer, never smoked, drank in that day in his life, worked at an American can company, right? Every day I remember, though, coming to dinner, nothing but Dr. Pepper. So this is me young, growing up, figuring out, putting the puzzle pieces together of a picture of like what's going on. How's these things affecting our health and our daily well-being? You know who is this? Who is this one? Huey P. Newton. Now my Oakland fans know that too. Worldwide people respecting under the Black Panther Party know about this. So my aunt was in the Black Panther Party, and intersectionality came to me real hard, right? Because I'm at Thanksgiving dinner. My aunt comes in the door, right? And my pops is sort of rolling his head, rolling his eyes a little bit. He's like, okay, here she comes with it. She's like, wait a minute. You guys come to tell me you about to sit down at this table and eat a turkey that was enslaved before it came here. She was breaking it down. I'm sitting at the table like, think, like. So I got introduced, and she was part of the Black Panther Party. She would take care of the babies, and what things she would do, she was all about the food, all about the nourishment, right? One thing I got inspired by, I'm just dropping this so I can show a little bit later why I'm showing these. I got inspired by this. And this is the free breakfast program the Black Panthers did. Free breakfast program. And what was powerful about this is that it was taken on this principle, which I'm going to show here, of Kujichagulia. When I was younger, I looked at this term and I was like, this is a weird term. Like, it just looks weird, right? But down here it says, it's self-determination, right? To define ourselves, name ourselves, create for ourselves. And then below, you can't really see it, but it's speak for ourselves. So I was like, wow, they were practicing that principle, Kwanzaa, which was Kujichagulia, self-determination. So one of the things that was most important for the government at that time to crack down on, people a lot of times think that the Second Amendment rights, gun-toting, is like, no, we're setting up these clinics to deal with the sickle cell anemia, and we're actually gonna feed our community. Then people got in, the government forces came and was like, okay, well, something's going wrong there. It was kind of embarrassing to see that there's a faction of the United States population saying that, hey, we don't really actually depend on you for anything, right? The reason why I'm showing this because it sort of informs some of where we get to at the end. I'm showing that because, again, the diabetes in the family. So after I came, I grew up in Chicago, went to school upstate New York, then I moved to Brooklyn. Then I came out to the West Coast and I studied transpersonal psychology. And this transpersonal psychology, that set me off a whole nother level. Because I started studying indigenous wisdom and I started studying shamanism directly. And I had so a lot of how I got directly into the movement around environmental justice, food justice, looking at veganism, being vegan, came directly through my experience with plant medicines, through actually experientially communicating with the earth. Looking at what was going to happen projected-wise in terms of climate, environment, toxins, and it really a conversation came and was just like, you know what, Ash, what you have to do, you have to make sure you put the food back into people, the earth back into people. The food has to be that conduit with the earth in there to get into the people, right? So from there, I asked more questions. I'm sitting in the darkness, I'm sitting in ceremonies 2 days, 3 days, 4 days, and I'm like, well, how do I heal my people? How does the earth human population heal? More information came. They said, but first, you have to actually start an organization and actually really start, because these are the ancestors I'm working with. That's why I presented them earlier, but I was just like, yeah, like we have to really start going at the root level. You can talk about the branches and the symptomology, but let's really talk about the roots. So that's why I showed that. That reminds me of the jungle, reminds me of some of the ayahuasqueros and the curanderos that I work with some of the sacred plant medicine, i.e. ayahuasca and psilocybin, and really just informed me a lot. So they were like, you need to create an organization that actually does that. So I was like, okay. Meanwhile, I went to go work for this guy. After I did that, I was like, okay, let me work for Van. Van's doing something green for all. He's getting green job advocacy for low-income communities, making sure the work that needs to be done around climate and environmental justice, making sure that work gets done, putting up solar panels, etc. But what I noticed that was really interesting, the most magnetic thing, and I think it's really important to recognize, especially my brother comes up, the most magnetic thing was actually when we actually fed people, we had the music present, and also I noticed that when people were planning food together, people came out together. There was something really intrinsic about that, something really innate, something deeply inside our genes as humans to actually congregate and get our hands in the soil and actually feel something. So I was like, okay, something's going on with this. But also with Van, with that whole movement I was working with Van, with National Spotlights Director all around the country, it really got me to think about economics too. But since I'm an artist, you know what I had to do? I had to create a band. I had to create Earth Amplified. So actually the first official green hip hop album, Earth Amplified, right? So I had Dead Prez, Zion I, Wu-Tang, a lot of people on that. I actually have those albums today. So I was around the country performing and actually presenting this to the people and getting information. And then, so when I was done with Green Fraud, I went and I did SOS Juice. Now, SOS Juice, as an artist, I was like, how can I actually deal with this? This came directly from that ceremony, SOS Juice, and also from my Rasta, right? They were like, we need to get the system out of your system. The issues never change. You're banging your head up against a wall. You're talking to people, getting your blood pressure raised up about what they're not doing. Take some responsibility for your own temple. How do you vibrate that out? How do you take responsibility for this right here, this silence that's in the middle of your chest? Can you hear that heartbeat? Those are the type of conversations we were having when we had events with SOS Juice. Then, with that, we were able to have deeper conversations about looking at post-traumatic slave syndrome and how veganism fits into that conversation around how we can heal the people on a cellular level. So we would do things like family constellations. We would do things, we would actually have people with the juice in the middle of the circle. We put our intentionality in that. We would actually go around a circle and have people actually share what they were dealing with in terms of health in their environment, in their community. I would actually go down to Occupy. We would put these drops, these flowers, these plant power. You know what I'm saying? This movement to me is like plant power. We would have these drops, these flower drops that actually dealt with emotional trauma and actually removed it from the system. So I was like, well, our allies are not just these people around here. Our allies are our plants. We have allies in other dimensions. So I was like, we really want to get down. We need to really actually just open up to the real 360 vision of the whole situation, right? So when I did that, I was like, wow, okay, SOS Juice. So then, boom, we had a series of events. So you rocked that out. We did, did more SOS Juice events. I called them like mini ceremonies about the music. Right? So we already sort of hinting upon like, wow, music can be used in this way. We're serving free juice to people, using what I said about the Black Panther Party. And then I was working with Alliance for Climate Education. We were down in Salinas, which actually the tragedy there is that some of the people we were working with, that some of the young people we work with in high schools are dealing with, the families are dealing with diabetes, dealing with hunger actually, but they actually pick majority of our food, right? And I was down there with Lauren Arnellas, give her big ups again, all-star. And she was coming through and she was like, yeah, we're gonna get food. get food. We were doing diabetes screening, all that, and we had a conversation about veganism in the context of that, around environment, climate, drought, those issues, right? So there's some of the steps we did. But what really shifted things for me was working, like in terms of where I'm seeing a solution lies for this, right? Was working with Soul Shop. I would do anti-bullying work in middle schools. You're like, well, how does this all correlate? I was doing anti-bullying work, 90 students at once. Give me the microphone. Okay, well, what are we gonna do? How are we gonna deal with this, right? Talking about bullying. When I was doing Alliance for Climate Education, I saw people, we had conversations around how we can actually change people's diets. People were talking about, oh, I'm gonna go vegetarian because it's good for the environment, et cetera. But what really shifted, I would go in some schools and I didn't have any conversation about climate, environment, food, or anything. And I would see people waking up to themselves when we had these simple conversations with SOS Juice to really ask them about who they were. When I really sat and listened to the youth, when they were able to express that pain in a safe form. And it gave me some information about how the movement, how we can transform our movements, actually, for liberation. So, just hinting upon that, but Soul Shop went deep. That's urban pharmacy. Show a little bit about that. We actually do hydroponics with youth, and we talk about social entrepreneurship. So from that, we started projects, and one of the projects on the youth would say, hey, we want to do this, so we started entrepreneurship. We started doing some hydroponic work. And started doing that, right? Yeah, that's the legend of the Uber rapper right there. So one of the social entrepreneurship projects we have is actually looking at, with this, I have vegan products in that. Before I leave, what I want to do, though, is show you a little bit more about this, and then I want to show you like a quick video. Right? So, 10th element of hip-hop. So after all this organizing around the country, all this sort of, looking at, cross-section like between food, climate, environment, health, trauma, all of this, anybody know Joy DeGroy's work? Post-traumatic slave syndrome, right? She's gonna be on the tour with us and doing some stuff. Hip Hop is Green comes out, 10th element of hip hop. We saw, Phife Dawg. We saw a lot of people in hip hop passing away from diet-related diseases and illnesses. So we create the 10th element of hip hop. So what's powerful about this is that. That's what's up. So 200, 300 youth at a time, we would be rocking for them, performing for them, but also educating and actually feeding them in the veins of what we just showed in terms of the Black Panther Party, actually feeding them healthy vegan meals. So that's what Hip Hop is Green does right now. We actually feed a bunch of people all around the country. And then we have a symposium talking about the intersection, like some of the conversation we had here. And then also the last, we have a performance, we have a show. So that's Rock. We actually in the kitchen getting it. This is a show we just did, actually. And then we go through, then there's the 10 elements of hip hop.
So this is an interesting time and space that we're in. So I'd like to, before we get everything up and rolling, have everybody find their navel. Find your belly button. Find your navel. Thank you. And while you have your navel, think about why you have one. What it was for. There was a time for 10 months out of our life where we did not have to breathe through our nose. We did not have to chew or swallow. We did not have to eliminate waste through our bowels, all because we have a navel. Was it connected to your daddy? Or was it connected to your mother? Who? Mother. Okay, so the reason why that's important is because I'm going to be talking about the hood food movement, and the only way I can speak about it is from my experience. I have no activism in my background as an organizer. I never had an interest in it. What I did have was potency. My name is Eugene. Anybody know the study of eugenics? What is the study of eugenics?
Science of racism.
That's what some people say. And so my name is Eugene. And so when I found out that I was becoming a father for the first time, I said, I need to figure out my name. And eugenics is actually race improvement through selective breeding. To me, that ain't nothing wrong. If you know that you're getting ready to bring children into the world, you should select your partner properly. Because if you select your partner properly, you can improve the entire human race. So I'm going to take a minute to let you know before we get too far into it that every slide that you're going to see is photographs of our actual work. We grow food in Atlanta. We started in Southern California. And the reason why I started was because of this young man. This young man here. That young man, his name is Kush Amun. But more importantly, before him was his mother. And they're right here in the audience. Will you stand up for a moment, please? So about 17 years ago, this amazing woman sitting here, Samantha Elena, came to me and said, I'm pregnant. And I was glad because I knew it was mine. And I was freaked out because I was in this country. And I was born as a black man in this country. If I was born as a black man in Kemet 4,000 years ago, and she came to me and said, I'm pregnant, I would have brought in elephants for her to ride on. But I was in Pomona, right? I was in Pomona, and I went into our little backyard on Indian Hill Boulevard, and I just started planting seeds because my grandparents on my mother's side are farmers. So I'm giving you that context so that I can go on, and before I go too much further, I want to ask the eldest person in the room if I can continue. My elders, do I have permission to speak? Thank you, sir. So this is what happened. I realized that I want this woman to eat the best food possible while she's gestating this being. And when this child comes out, I want the breast milk to be clean. And when the teeth start to come in, I want him to be able to chew and digest the best food. So we only had a little square in our backyard, but we started to plant the food, and we had an amazing community of people in Pasadena who were also pregnant at the time and part of our birthing community, and they came by the house and saw food growing and falling all over the place, and they said, you need to teach people how to do this. I said, I don't know how to do this. They said, what are you talking about? You know more than we do. And that's an important thing that I learned. Oftentimes, our own lack of self-confidence keeps us from sharing the gifts that we have. Anybody know about that? All right. You know more than somebody in something. So that's how it started. Feeding our families, of course, that's important. I'm a young man, I'm 45 years old, and starting that small garden in the backyard in Pomona has taken me around the world. I already said I don't have any letters. I didn't even get an introduction. Nobody even introduced me. Right? Because they wouldn't have been able to read nothing. But I'm going to tell you, I've been to Kenya, I've been to Haiti, I've been to Louisiana, I've been to Jamaica, I've grown food in all of these places, and I've only been invited to those places because I grow food. And the first thing that really transformed my mind was I was taken to Kenya in 2007, and when I got there, the women came and they felt my hands. They didn't look at my clothes. They didn't look at how cute I was in the face. They felt my hands. And when they felt my hands, they took all my clothes and said, I'm going to wash your clothes. They didn't have a washing machine. They meant we're going to wash and scrub your clothes because they said, you work on the shamba. You're a farmer. I said, yeah, I'm a farmer. They said, okay, we're going to wash your clothes. And I was treated with a respect that I've never felt here. And so growing food has been the root of all of these things, saving money, creating businesses, traveling the world, and investing in yourself. Because as all the other speakers have talked about, it's us that is the most valuable key in this whole situation, whether it's stopping something or starting something. And I'm more in line with the starting something, with the creativity, right? Let's start something instead of resisting something. Fighting against something. We're too creative to be doing that. So again, I had no intention of being an activist. I had no intention of ever thinking about being, I did something wrong. And being invited somewhere to talk about any of this. But it's important that we realize that it all comes from there. Standing Rock. Why is it important what's happening in Standing Rock? Because you and I aren't doing it. And we haven't done it. They are doing it. and have been doing it. And at a crucial time like right now, if we don't value the land, we can forget about any kind of movement that we think we're going to have. Intersectionality, I'm just learning that term. I'm wearing this vegan t-shirt because an organization called A Well-Fed World has come in and supported our work, and so I'm wearing this t-shirt. I just started calling myself a vegan 2 years ago because I've been paid to call myself a vegan. Do you understand me? I've been eating this way for a long time. Some of the people who introduced me to this, Samantha and I changed our lifestyle in '96 because of Queen Afua, because of Phil Valentine, because of Dr. B, because of, what was the place called? The Good Life in LA. Because I worked at Mr. Wisdom's. It was so good to see him in that film. I grew the wheatgrass from Mr. Wisdom in his right off Slauson. So we have a history of this, but I never called myself a vegan until some white women called me up and said, "Are you a vegan?" I said, "I don't know." Tell me why you're asking. And they said, "Well, we've seen some videos online that you're making compost without any animal fertilizers." I said, "Yeah." They said, "That's veganic compost, correct?" I was like, "I guess so." They said, "Well, we really need to support people of color who are already doing this work in their communities. Are you interested in support?" And I said, "Yes, always." And then I got these t-shirts and I've been invited places and all of that. And so I said, okay, I guess I'm a vegan. I still don't really want to say it, so I'll just wear the shirt. Y'all can read, right? All right, so we're good on that. So this is what I'm interested in. Those are the things, if I'm going to represent something, I represent indigenous wisdom, the time for land rights, and reparations. That will be always my platform. Always. If vegan will get me in the door to stand in front of these amazing people and get my mind blown and my heart washed by all the people who came up before me, then I'll do that. I'll be a vegan for today. But you know, if you catch me in the hallway, what I'm going to talk to you about is that. That's what's important. Now, how do we do that? How do we do that in LA? How do we do that in Atlanta? We grow food in Southwest Atlanta. We grow food in the SWATs. I've been in Atlanta for 10 years. I started at Crenshaw High School with a man named Adonijah Miyamura L. Yo, give it up. Adonijah Miyamura L. He taught me everything. Oh, he blew my mind with Food Forestry International, but we didn't make no money. And every time we got a USDA grant to start a project, they funded it, we got paid on time, and in the moment it was successful, it was canceled. And we started to understand that, like, oh, okay, they want the data, they want our methodology, they don't want success. And so I was invited to come to Atlanta. We started some big projects in Atlanta, and it's still the same game. Sometimes it's a little even more intense in Atlanta because in Atlanta we have that history and that present of deep racism. So, why did we stop growing food? Why did we stop growing food? How many of you are growing food right now for yourself? That's beautiful. It's a too little of us. So why did we stop growing food? We stopped growing food for a multitude of reasons. One of the key factors is lack of access to land that is stable, because there was a concept of land ownership that was introduced into our ancient indigenous cultures where we understand the planet to be a living organism that gave birth to us. So how can you own it? But once that thing was introduced, many of us turned our back, because if you could own the land, then you could own me. And you could own the babies that come from my woman's belly. And that's exactly what happened. And when you own something, man, you can throw it. If this is my computer, I could throw it out in the audience and wouldn't nobody say nothing. But if it's yours and I throw it out in the audience, we're going to have a fight. And so Standing Rock is the fight. Growing food is the fight. Atlanta is the fight. LA is the fight. Our organization is called Grow Where You Are, Our website is growwhereyouare.farm, F-A-R-M. If you go to growwhereyouare.farm, the first thing that comes up on the home page is a video of a feast that we did. And it was a feast where we had grown all these amazing oyster mushrooms, lion's mane mushrooms, and grilled them out over the fire with these restaurants that we deliver our food to. The chefs came out and volunteered. We fed 250 people for free, top-of-the-line vegan meal. We didn't call it vegan. We just said, come out and eat, y'all. And the people were like, man, that pork is so good. You ever had a lion's mane mushroom, anybody? Grilled over the fire, it tastes like a piece of succulent pork. And the people loved it. And at the end of the day, this sister came over to me and she said, the maestre is visiting from Brazil and we're over in the park. Can we come over and do our ceremony? And this picture is from that day. This is a maestre from Brazil. These are all the capoeiristas in Atlanta, and they came on that feast to our farm. Now, the important thing about that is because that's culture. That's how culture is transmitted. And anybody not familiar with the art of capoeira? So we know that it's a dance that's a martial art. It's a martial art disguised as a dance. And it's a conversation. And we had all these people there, and they were, our farm at this time was the Good Shepherd Agroecology Center, Good Shepherd Agroecology Center, and it was on a church property. And these brothers and sisters came and they did their thing while we fed the people. And what we understood was, just like the brother AshEl said, food, that's when it starts to really happen. You feed people, oh man, we love getting together and eating. But when people get a chance to take their shoes off and put their feet on the ground, electromagnetic energy starts to flow through people. Free radicals are released. Free electrons are absorbed into the body. You find out you're on planet Earth again because this rubber, is it an insulator or a conductor? It's an insulator. So the rubber tires, the rubber shoes, you're never on planet Earth. So everything that's happening in your head becomes so important because you're in that nation, that huge nation of the imagination. And so you think everything that's happening in your mind is so important. But if you take your shoes off and you put your feet right on the ground for 80 minutes a day, all those free radicals get released out of the body. The free electrons get absorbed into the body. That's the biochemical stuff. But the quantum level of intelligence that you absorb is the same thing with the seeds, the recipes, the stories, the songs, the clothing. All of that is agriculture. And oftentimes we only talk about food. But agriculture is clothing, fuel, shelter. And in those seeds, there's a tremendous amount of information. So we've stayed busy, and we've started to look at urban agriculture systems around the globe and around the country. And this is right in downtown Atlanta. This is 2012. This is a housing complex called the Wheat Street Gardens apartment complex that had gotten torn down to the ground. And an organization called Truly Living Well Center for Natural Urban Agriculture put in the largest urban farm in the nation, 4 acres in the middle of Atlanta. I designed that. I installed that with a team of amazing people. And now it's gone. But while it was there, it created one of the largest waves of gentrification that you could ever imagine. And what I've learned is through Atlanta that when you come in, when we come in and do what is native to us, it increases the property value, and unknowingly, we become gentrifiers. Hear what I'm saying to you. Unknowingly, we become gentrifiers when we care about the land in our environment, because the nature of who we are is so magnificent that it automatically boosts property value. So, unless we have any of these things in line, like land trusts, then our work just serves to be a prototype for a future that we hope for. What I'm here for today to talk about and to plead about is now is the time for organizations and individuals and family foundations to make it possible for land to become permanently in the hands of people who care about it, so that we can have these, create these, keep these, and always have housing available on any of the land that we grow on, because that's where the problem comes in. One of the things that we do now, we partner with a lot of different organizations and institutions, and we put together programs that are targeted to the youth. Anybody know about Bankhead? Yeah, well, when you go there, it's like Watts, but in the 1960s, right after police brutality. It's done. And these are the children from Bankhead. And that woman is an amazing woman who's from California. Her name is Tassili. Tassili's Raw Reality. She has a raw food restaurant in Southwest Atlanta. And when she heard we were working with these youth, she said, I'm going to come in and I'm going to teach them how to make raw food dishes and eat them. And what we're learning is that you feed people is the first way in. So it's important for us to look at this, because as we work with these youth in Bankhead, what we're showing them is that a plant-based diet, eating with the seasons, eating whole foods, can move a whole lot of stuff in your makeup. Just like AshEl said, it can cleanse you, and then suddenly the entrepreneurial spirit, the self-determination, the Kujichagulia starts to activate. My teacher, Adonijah, told me one thing that was really crucial, and he told me a lot of things, but one thing that I'm going to share with you is he said, listen, Eugene, in the black community, and in most communities, the higher up someone goes in education, the less likely they are to own a business. The more likely they are to work for somebody else. You go to the black community, the people who are running have a beauty salon, or they're a plumber, or they're a mechanic. Those people don't have PhDs, but they're in their community hiring people, training people, circulating the dollar. Somebody gets a PhD, Cornell West, and he can continually get fired from an institution. So what I want to impress upon those children, and maybe you, is the importance of doing. Activation. Krishnamurti would often get asked questions about, how do I concentrate? He'd say, just do it. Stop asking me how. Just do it. So we need more people growing food. And in that growing food, that means we have to transform. What does a farmer look like when you close your eyes in your mind? What does a farmer look like? If it doesn't look like you, if it doesn't look like Kush, if it doesn't look like Samantha, then that means you're going to be eating from some people that you already are uncomfortable with. How does that make sense? To eat from people who we have seen consistently degrade us and themselves. Because as Liz pointed out, this whole system of oppression, it ruins everybody. The oppressor and the oppressed.
AshEl? My question is for AshEl. First of all, that video was banging. Gave me KRS-One vibes. I wanted to find out, how can I get access to that video?
Oh yeah, just YouTube it. Yeah, it's called Food Fight, Earth Amplified. Just go on that. And it's actually translated in different languages, Japanese, Spanish, just sort of global. Yeah, just Google that.
Okay.
It has a curriculum to it too. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else? Let's go around. Charlotte.
Thank you so much. I'm so moved by what you both shared. And I really see spirituality is a big part of what you're doing. And I would love to hear more from both of you about your spirituality. Thanks.
That's great for you bringing that up. So for me, it's the spiritual teachers in my life that have always made it very critical how important diet is, or how important our livity is. And that's why I mentioned people like Queen Afua and Dr. Phil Valentine and Mr. Wisdom and folks of that nature. What I would say that is something for all of us to consider is that when we begin to really embark on a spiritual journey, and you maybe decide you want to go to an ashram for a meditation or something like that, when you come to a spiritual teacher, in all the spiritual texts, the very first thing that they ask you to do is go do seva, selfless service, and most often in the garden. Even if you read the history and the stories of these great saints and teachers. Somebody comes to them and says, hey, I want to know the secrets. I want to be tapped into the inner sound and the music of the spheres. And they go, yeah, go out there and plant these seeds and get these beds ready. And they, okay, I did that. Can I get the teachings? And they say, go out there and do this again. Now you do it in the fall. Now you do it in the spring. Now you do it in the winter. Now you do it in the summer. And that activity is always a part of any ashram or any spiritual quest.
Indeed, yeah, I mean, perfect. I mean, right now, so I do health coaching, and I work with superfoods, plant-based diets for people. And one thing is really powerful right now is, so I'm working with, a couple of people that are dealing with alcoholism, and a couple of people dealing with coke addiction and things like that. And the first thing that my teachers have been telling me is like, the highest spirituality you work with them on is actually getting them in their body, getting them into nature, having them just breathe in the air, take, like my brother was saying, taking off your shoes, putting your feet up on the ground, connecting to the earth. And these type of things we sort of shunned, or as a, different cultures have shunned, or things like this, and it seems sort of oversimplistic in some ways, but the simple, my teacher would say, is simple is the most advanced. He's like, a smile can heal cancer, yeah. So these things we think are magical are really just things we have forgotten about our own constitution and our own magnificence, yeah, so, yeah, indeed.
Thank you so much, both of you, for sharing your gifts. I really appreciated, just through the imagery and also just through your sharing, your commitment and willingness to engage children and young people, especially as a mom. Eugene, I'm a gardener, and what I want to know is, I've planted my garden for fall, and I've also attended, workshops and gotten trained and tips from master gardeners where I am. I'm in Arizona, and we can grow things there. It's hard, but especially in the summer and spring, but it's possible. What can I do? What can we do? Because I know as a gardener, it's overwhelming, just getting back to the basics. But it's so needed and so necessary, and it's so nourishing and nurturing. What can we do walking away to be able to grow more, to engage young people, to really get that out there?
You asked a couple different things. What I will say, as far as to grow more, what you can do is soak the seeds in your mouth, right? So the seeds, the larger seeds, squash seeds and like sunflower seeds and things like that, before you plant them, soak them in your mouth so that they can get all of your information and they can know who you are. And so they can go into that ground and look for the exact nutrients that your body requires. And because you're a mother, your children have a similar constitution, and the flavor of the food, once it is mature, will be so connected to you, it'll taste like the best food you ever had because you gave it the information from the beginning. The other thing that you can do as far as getting the word out is it comes down to feeding folk. I mean, the dinners that y'all are doing and the lunches, that's one of the strongest ways, is to do the savor, prepare the meals, and feed the folk, man. Just feed the children and make the times when we sit together be celebratory.
Yeah, I mean, hiphopIsgreen.com. Yeah, check that. It's really. I mean, you the one who get fed when you're feeding other people, right? So young people. We just had one in Oakland, and it was just fun to just have the 7th graders try to out-scream the 6th graders. It's like, it's just fun, and they're all getting hungry, and they're like, man, and they're waiting, and then you feed them, and they just get it. They're like, yeah, okay, I got it now. So it's beautiful. It's a beautiful thing. Yeah.
All right, thank you. Amazing.